This is Defacto Review, where we run over the past news of last week and then discuss what happens next. Hi, I'm Terrence Edwards, and with us tonight is our host, Jargal Defacto. How are you, Jargal?
Hey, doing good. How are you today?
We got a new time, I see.
Yep.
8 o'clock.
So, from now on it will be on 8 o'clock. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Very nice meeting you again tonight on air.
I understand we also have a Facebook broadcast. Is that going on tonight?
Yep.
Okay, so you can catch us also on VTV's Facebook page.
Well, let's start from the main events that we highlighted for this week.
Sure. Can we see what we have to talk about today?
The subsidized mortgage program will not be discontinued, says Prime Minister Erdogan. Controversy continues over cabinet appointments with deputy minister posts. Bank of China looks for a larger role to play in Mongolia. Erdogan government looks for path to escape today's economic challenges.
We begin with the economy. The Prime Minister, Jargal Erdogan, has promised not to discontinue the subsidized mortgage program among a host of other programs for the economy. The Cabinet Secretary and Bank of Mongolia briefed the Prime Minister last week on the current state of the economy, and recommendations were made on how to move forward. Following the briefing, the Prime Minister made a series of announcements regarding economic and social welfare policy. That includes the decision to continue the subsidized mortgage program, which has been the catalyst of growth for the construction sector over the last couple of years. Erdogan has also ordered the cabinet to find the financial resources needed to continue the universal payments for children, as well as look for any breaches that have been made in government lending to companies or individuals. So real quick, can we take a look at what the priority for social spending should be in this distressed economy?
Well, as you said, Prime Minister just started his work as a Prime Minister finally.
Yeah.
And the first things was he ordered, or the cabinet, which is now having sessions every Wednesday, they ordered the related ministries to study the opportunity of continuing those social care issues, social care payments, including children's payment. Every child is paid in the country, a certain amount of money per month. And secondly, it was an issue of continuing that discounted mortgage rate.
Yes.
Which was 8% at the beginning, later on 5%, and the Democratic Party wanted to have at the end even 1%, which altogether, whatever percentage is, even if at the level of 8%, it's 3 times less than the market level.
Sure.
So which is for long term is impossible to maintain.
Because it gets expensive to continue footing the bill so banks can offer these mortgages.
Well, all
so
things
cheaply.
was at the cost of foreign debt and domestic debt, and this government cannot continue that impossible or utopian social care issue. Why? Because in order to implement that, say, discounted mortgage rate, a discounted rate mortgage, they have printed from 5 to 7 trillion Mongolian tugriks and issued to the circulations. And now we started to pay that cost from after ASEM and everything, because now the tugrik, $1 US dollar rate is 2,140 as of today. And it will be even more to the second half of this August, after long days of Nadam, Asem, and then holidays. People now finally start having a normal life, which they will, the country depends a lot on the import. So we need a lot of import products, and then the dollar demand will be even higher. And the government, in order to do all these social programs, they collect taxes from one part of the population and transfers to other part of the population under any social names programs. But today what is going to happen is these people who were paying taxes, who were able to pay taxes, they cannot afford anymore. There is no domestic source of money.
Yeah, they're not going to look into their pocket and find a pile of cash.
And they cannot borrow from the foreign market either, because this country had reached the level, optimal level, or even maximum level of capacity of paying foreign and domestic debt. So this cabinet is better to agree not to continue, which unfortunately is not the case, because
You're talking about the mortgage program.
Not only mortgage, also children's money, etc.
Okay.
Several social care payments which this country, this economy cannot afford anymore. But because it was their political party promises, campaign program, the Prime Minister asked to study the possibility of continuing. Of course, the answer will be it is not possible.
Okay.
And the other thing you mentioned about the hearing of new president of Central Bank of Mongolia,
Yes.
and the new finance minister by the parliament, but it was a closed hearing.
Yes, we don't have so many details.
The problem is this should not be closed. In democratic society, the sort of the truth should be available for everybody, in particular for businesses who need realistic information to plan their businesses better. So that's the beginning of this new cabinet.
Yeah. When it comes to the mortgage program, it was very popular in some years, but then it petered out. It turned out that people weren't able to afford the 8% anymore. They had got to the point where they had met the demand at 8%. So looking at it forward, they would have to lower the mortgage rate for them to have more demand, I think. And at this point, with the economy the way it is, and with the necessary spending to put it to 5%, 1%, it may be better just to let those mortgage holders continue on, but going forward may not make sense.
Terence, on the other side, the problem with this mortgage rate was the principal was so high or expensive. Government, what happened with the previous government is they have also had a price restriction program or price stabilization program, and they have given a lot of money to construction company, materials companies, suppliers to the construction businesses, which gave the construction industry a wrong hope that the price can stay that way longer. Yeah. So because this intervention of the government, too much intervention, real estate price keeps staying relatively high. They go slow, but very slowly down. As a result, the mortgage rate of the houses were very expensive houses were given with discounted rate. What happens now with the economy's downturns, these people who started mortgage, some of them are not able to pay even that discounted rate because the price is too high.
Yeah, and they've already really met demand. So continuing the 8% program might not make sense.
It is again an issue of how much government can be a part of price regulations or price restrictions. And Mongolian government up to now think that they can continue forever, which is wrong, which is against the market regulations of prices, which is for longer run much better than any bureaucrats regulation or settlement setting of the prices. So
what I would like to see a government do is actually look at the construction companies that people handed over their money for, because most of these mortgages were for new apartments that were being built. But a lot of these people have been waiting years for their apartment. They're living with their families, or they can't afford to rent, and they're still waiting on their apartment to actually be commissioned. So I really wish the government would look into that for those folks.
Exactly, the demand, the capacity of purchasing power of the people. Because you see, the problem of Ulaanbaatar is almost half or 60% of households living in their district without any proper sanitation.
Yeah.
Those people cannot afford new apartments.
No, they'd have to go much lower for them.
That's why.
I think rentals might. They were last government was looking
they
at
started
rentals.
rentals.
That might work, but really, it's not our job to come up with the urban
But still,
policy.
the rentals were on the properties that is the price is not set by the demand. It was set by
it was also
government.
subsidized. Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
yes.
All right, moving on. Last week, you may remember there were some controversial appointments made, and some of those were not confirmed. Again, we're looking at this as the Prime Minister looks at the position of Deputy Minister among his cabinet. So 10 of 13 Deputy Ministers have been confirmed amid some flags that there was conflicts of interest among the pool of candidates. The Independent Authority Against Corruption is looking into these. So we have 10 names here. These are definitely confirmed. And we have 3. What are the 3 that need to be posted still?
Well, I mean, this is a technical matter. And now, I was wondering why this government is listening to anti-corruption agency. If they are listening seriously, why did not hear them before they announce any name? So I think this is a good excuse for them to pretend that they have been listening to the demands of those who wants to be deputy minister. It's one reason. One observation. The second observation is this very position of deputy ministers were created by this party, by this cabinet, and the parliament where the People's Party is dominant, they have adopted, they have edited our government law, and they have added new provision of deputy ministers. And that according to that provision of this amended government law, it says that the deputy ministers will be responsible in front of the minister for smooth operation of ministry and other agencies under the ministry. But yet we have another law, the same law, but previous provisions where they have specified the role of state secretary. And the state secretary is also responsible for smooth operation of that ministry.
So some redundancy.
Not only, and there's some kind of even a confusion, because that state secretary is also responsible for smooth and it's a prompt operation of the minister's work. And the state secretary is responsible for making sure that every other decisions of the minister is according to other laws of Mongolia. See, in this country, when we made first these changes in our government, the idea was to have a minister who is a political nominee, then the state secretary who is a professional public officer.
The technocrat.
Technocrat, which was never the case downside in the history of 4 or 5 last governments. As a result, we have always confusion. So deputy minister position is created to me to share certain public positions with the people who are loyal to the political party. It some goes even as like a payment for maybe their political donations according to what's happening, what was happening beyond that the nomination of candidacy and approval of candidacy. So again, as you said, it's repetition of certain positions, functions in the cabinet.
So are you saying that if the government wanted to get a bit leaner, they might want to remove the deputy minister post altogether?
They could do, but instead they have created that deputy ministry. It's additional cost, it's confusion.
More salaries.
However, yeah, but this is mostly the distribution of, again, this loyalty combination of donation to the political parties. Because this political party's financing is not clear, and we don't know how much this ruling party had created money. So that's the whole thing is happening to me. And the other thing is it should be very clear the job description of minister, deputy minister, state secretary now. It should not be repeated, and it should be very clear. In general, why do we need the ministries? The ministries are there to set up certain standards, to enforce those to be fulfilled by everybody related to the operations. And I also find that, remember, there was a very funny, popular law of Parkinson, mid-50s in UK, in which it says that one weak leader tend to create two weak deputies. And that two weak deputies, because they are weak, tend to create another two under each of them another. So one position makes 7 positions on this, under this bureaucratic law. So that's what's happening, I think, in Mongolia.
When I hear that, though, my first thought is, well, that's more people to share the blame when things go wrong.
Yeah, and again, I would like to describe that, to share with you the funny talk about, like all ministers' position. Deputy minister positions have also 2 differences. One is prepaid, the other one is paid after. So this is
sounds like a cell phone service plan.
Yep. In general, we should talk about the merit-based public service in Mongolia. Because it is not merit-based, they have to replace people by another people, which unfortunately, again, not based on merit. So public officers should be there, not because whom they know, but because what they know, which is not the case. And it is one of the major reasons why government is not stable in the society, because it is run by people not merit-based selected. That's the problem, I think.
Okay, and real quick, if they were to change, to try to clarify these roles, would they have to pass a law, or would it have to be an amendment to the Constitution?
No, we have a law, public service, we call it state service.
So an amendment.
It is, yes, civic service law. And by the way, they have recently, just last week, have changed all the major officers in that public service commission itself.
Yeah.
So every Mongolian new government are replacing the major public jobs, positions, people who is occupying their jobs, based on not merit, based on more loyal to the political party, which is the base for our turbulence, I think, in the governance in Mongolia.
Okay, next we're going to take a look at the banking sector. One of China's 2 largest banks has reached out to parliament members asking to play a larger role in Mongolia's financial economy. The Bank of China, which has a representative office in Ulaanbaatar since 2013, has requested this opportunity in a letter from the head representative, Dai Qingzhong. He said that the bank was thinking seriously on Mongolia's place on the global economy and noted its engagement with Mongolian entrepreneurs and businesses since it opened its representative office. So right now, Mongolia does not have such a large role from foreign banks. We see it, we have a couple with representative banks, but other than that, what do you see?
Well, you are talking about the Bank of China, who is operating in Mongolia from its rep office.
The representative
for last 3
office,
years.
yeah.
And they have requested to open branch, which was delayed all these years. And
so to go from representative to a branch that can do business.
Yeah, in order to have a full range operation in Mongolia, there should be a branch office at least.
Sure.
And Bank of China is 10% owned by RBS, Royal Bank of Scotland.
Okay.
So it's in a way also an international bank. But the issue is, you just said now there is not much foreign banks in the country. But I have taken first half of this year, 16 June 30th, by 16 June 30th, total bank balance sheet of all commercial banks in the country. And there are 23.3 trillion tugriks, which is where 3 of 4th belong to only four banks, which is Trade and Development Bank, Ham Bank, Golumt Bank, and Has Bank. And all these banks have foreign shareholders.
Sure.
So in a way, these banks are foreign banks in that sense.
They're international for sure.
Yes, and so this is already de facto international banks are operating in Mongolia, first. Secondly, Trade and Development Bank for the first half of the year made $40 billion tugriks profit. Ham Bank, 46 billion. Golumt Bank ran with loss, minus 4.7 billion. Has Bank, 2.7 billion tugriks profit. So these are very profitable institutions, except that one bank this year. And yet, the most profitable institutions are banks, in the commercial banks, and there's no other ways to raise fund in this country. And Mongolian companies, medium level or smaller level companies, raise fund with 24% a year. It's too high cost for normal business. And we have already Bank of China de facto operating in Mongolia, not de jure as we talked. Why de facto? Because all major large Mongolian companies are already borrowing from Bank of China from Beijing. The rep office make study, research, then the particular large companies who can afford and who has a lesser risk, they receive 2-3 times cheaper commercial loans from Bank of China from Beijing. So it's de facto operating. So now it's an issue only having those access for SME of Mongolia, which is not good news for commercial banks inside of the country, because these are the backbone of their loan customers. So what from the point of consumers, SME businesses, I think it's very good news if foreign banks, Bank of China or whatever, if any foreign banks come to Mongolia. Yeah. Today, this global world, it's very hard to make a clear difference which is one is operating inside or outside, because money has borderless quality. And plus China, we had de facto all depending on China already. 85% of our export is to this country. 1/3 of our import is from this country. So it's already so huge, foreign balance is related or connected with China. So we talk about dollar, but actually people are buying dollars to use for buying RMB. So it's quite much RMB connected economy. So Mongolian economy depends on the rate and the quality, strength of the RMB or yuan, how we call it. So China is the major financial player of Mongolia already.
So are you saying that the Bank of China opening a branch office would probably make sense?
Well, it has de facto operating in the country. Yeah. If it is de jure, it is kind of the impact of like this E-Mart in our retail sale.
Yes.
E-Mart, that world global chain, opened the branch in Mongolia. What happened? Consumer goods now 3 times cheaper.
The competition did this.
Yes, so maybe this is the positive
part. This is the answer
part
to the banking sector, perhaps.
And that's why banking sector had to go for lower saving rate and accordingly lower loan rate. Mm-hmm. And they have to go that. Of course, they explain it with inflation, with risks, yes. But inflation, by the way, it is only 1.7% now. Not because the economy is good, just because the purchasing capacity of people is shrinking.
Yeah,
that's why.
I just want to clarify for our listeners out there, or television viewers. There are foreign banks actually operating in Mongolia. The Netherlands ING does do business in Mongolia. However, it's more with institutional basis, and there are international banking groups such as the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development and the World Bank that do a lot of work in Mongolia as well. They mostly work with the main commercial banks here. So our final story for the evening. The Mongolian People's Party is taking a magnifying glass to Mongolia's budget problems. The Mongolian People Chairman, Miangom Enkbolt, has called for a special session of Parliament for the opening of the fall session, the fall legislative session. They want to reassess the budget and have new plan that would go a different direction from the Democratic Party. So are we looking mostly at the 2016 budget of today or the 2017 budget of tomorrow?
We call it reconsideration of or re-editing of the budget.
The reviewing
of the budget.
it.
A different name.
Yeah. The 2016 budget.
For the 2016.
Yeah.
But you know, for the history of Mongolia, we are reviewing a particular year budget 3 times this year. It's a record. And now I'm asking a question. Who is doing this budget? How professional are they? Whether they know what they do or they don't know what they do. Why we should review the same budget 3 times? So I'm raising an issue of competence of the Mongolian government, competence of public officers, Ministry of Finance, and the related officials. Because reviewing one budget once takes a lot of money, resources, and we cannot afford, maybe who knows, they will be reviewing for the 4th time to the end of the year.
It also takes the tension away from legislature that needs to be passed or disposed of.
Sometimes I feel like that these people are doing it on purpose. But however, today the price of things, they have a lot of excuses to change, and they have to change because it's an unrealistic budget. So they have to change. It's already, as we talked last time, we used to have for whole year 1 trillion tugrik deficit for last 4 years. But this year alone, for the first half of this year, 2 trillion tugriks deficit. If it goes, it will be 4 trillion tugriks. It will be almost more than half of the budget.
Economic growth is flat, but the deficit growth is definitely ballooning.
That's why our debt level is so high that we cannot afford anymore to borrow from anybody. These people should be crazy to borrow to Mongolians any money on that. The other thing is what happens with the household which has too much debt. They first of all cut their expenses. Second, they try to increase the way of payment capacity. If they don't do that, they will have problem with payment. If they cannot pay on time, what the borrowers do, who borrowed money, they try everything to cut out of the business, that guy, and to confiscate whatever assets they have. This is very similar to a country too. And if the government cannot do it, cannot pay on time, nobody will borrow to Mongolia. So that's the scenario we go there. And that's why if this government cannot do that cutting off expenses, decreasing of all this wastes, whatever, decrease all possible expenses, then the only way to do so is under the IMF standby program, which we are member of IMF, and they suggest to member countries to solve budget deficit.
Would it be a bailout?
It's a bailout in a way, and but this bailout comes with the conditions, which includes these things what I am now talking about. And I think IMF is a very good excuse for the government to do so if they cannot do it on their own, first. Second, IMF bailout shows the countries again for business. IMF bailout historically usually brings more than people who can loan to Mongolia.
I
So
think
it
what you're
opening-
trying to say is often they introduce austerity measures that are quite controversial.
Exactly, and it shows the willingness of the government to be again on the black, and again to show confidence, to prove that confidence, to give the confidence to the foreign investors. So it's important, and plus it's the only way to go out from the situation today we have. Otherwise, we will go deeper and deeper into this debt issue.
Okay, that'll have to be our final thought for the evening. We hope our briefings tonight give you a head start as you enter the new week. Any final thoughts?
And from now on, we will go on with our English weekly independent review at every Sunday at 8 o'clock. So please be with us. Thank you for watching.
Good night, Alan Batar.